All right, we are recording chapter 14 of Attack of the Clones. I do have notes, but honestly, a lot of it I do like, so a lot of this is going to be positive. There is some stuff that I'm more critical of, but so it's basically all just what starts with Padme and Anakin walking down the street to get to her home, though exactly how her home works is a little unclear to me. I mean, it is eventually stated that yes, this is the home of her parents. And she basically still lives there because, well, yeah, I could get, better home, a better house of my own because, well, a different house of her own because I do work as a senator and all that. But that those never felt warm to her, and was also, she's always so busy, it's not like she needed her own home. So just continuing to live with her parents was fine, which, nothing wrong with that. Um, but one thing that is unclear, and this is kind of skipping ahead to actually one of the last notes I have, is her sister is there, along with the two kids, her two daughters. Um, does she also live with their parents, which, honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. That would actually make some sense as well, because it does seem like it is not a small home. Like, it could be a generational home. But one thing weird, there is zero mention of Sola, that's Padme's sister, zero mention of her husband. At all. Like, not even oh, he can't make it, he's at work kind of thing. Like whatever's... No, nothing. Just, hey, Anakin, these are my two nieces. That's my sister. They're my parents. It's like nothing about where her husband is, where the father of these two daughters are. Yeah. I also do find just a little funny, but I mean, it's sort of whatever. That of that family, only her father, the only man there is her father, is Padme and Sola's father. So it's like, we don't have Sola's husband. Apparently it was only the two kids. We don't have any other, any sons there, any brothers there. So it's, that I do find a little funny. Oh yeah. Nah, I don't need to flip to that. But one thing that I did note, because it was at least one thing where it's like, no, this is an error. So Padme and Anakin arrive, and I understand they are not staying here. It's like they're stopping here. She's gonna change out some clothes, probably spend the night, and then they're gonna go on to where they're safe, where she believes will be safe for them to hide out, continue hiding out. I just remembered something I should do. When they are getting there, though, her mother is preparing dinner, and it seems like, yeah, let me find that. There was a joke that Anakin told that was actually pretty good. Yeah. So Sola, the mother Jobel is in the kitchen cooking the food. Sola, Padme, Anakin, and their father Rui, something like that, are there, and they're just talking. So no one has ever left this house hungry, Sola explained. Well, one person did once, Padme corrected, but Mom chased him down and dragged him back in. To feed him or cook him, the quick-witted Padawan retorted. The other three stared at him for just a moment before catching on and bursting out in laughter. I mean, that is the kind of family dynamic they have there, but it is she always, cooks for the whole town. She doesn't cook just for her family. But it is still kind of funny that, she's bringing the food out, and it's like, I hope you're hungry, Anakin. A little. He looked up and gave her a warm smile. The look of gratitude was not lost on Padme. She tossed a little wink his way when he looked back at her. He's being polite, Mom, she said. We're starving. Here's the thing, though. Earlier, up on this page, where is it? Despite the fact that he had eaten recently, the bowl of food looked and smelled temptingly good. It's like, he's actually not hungry. He wasn't lying. He wasn't being polite. He's not that hungry. Potentially, why would he have eaten and not Padme at the same time? So that doesn't make any sense. And then it is like, yeah, he takes some of everything. Anakin took a good helping of several different dishes. Food was all unfamiliar, but the smells told him that he wouldn't be disappointed. It's like, is he hungry or not? Did he just eat or not? This is an actual error. And it's like not even a full page later. Yeah. That stuff annoys me. Because I mean, that is such a minor thing. It really is. If it had been Well, you'd have to rewrite a little bit here. Uh, yeah, enough to feed the town. You know, Mom came the answer, and the tone told Anakin this was not an isolated incident, how much she's cooking, that Jobo was quite the hostess. Despite the fact that he had eaten recently, the bowl of food looked and smelled temptingly good. I mean, it's like you'd have to rewrite that some so that it's like, you know, even though he's not very hungry, it's still like, oh, I could eat more. You could do something else there to have him be like, yes, this is very tempting, but maybe I shouldn't. Not entirely sure. Like if you suggested that like the Jedi have a diet or something he's on, which would have never been touched on before, but I mean, I don't know, but still that is an error. Okay. It was actually a little earlier than this. Don't need to look back there. So they're walking up to the house. We're walking down the street, eventually spotting the house. The two kids run out to her. She introduces them to Anakin, and then once they spot R2, they run to him and start playing with R2. At this point, to like lead Anakin continuing up to the house, Padme actually takes his hand, which I do find interesting. She then actually takes his hand later as well, but it is... What this is reinforcing to me is that she, when she isn't in senator mode, when she isn't in politician mode, she's actually very comfortable, very familiar with him. It's only when she has to be in that mode that it's like, nope, out. Not happening. Or if she is just... I don't think this is the right word, but it's the best I can think of, that she is like contrarian with her sister and her family. That's like, no, that's not what it is. But it is like when it's just those two alone, she's, as I said, very familiar, very comfortable with him, so... like it is very reasonable that these two are in or will be in a relationship when they are just alone. But once there's somebody else, once there's they can be alone. But if she has to think about the responsibility, it's not happening. If there's somebody else there, then say nope. I'm not even going to acknowledge this. Yeah, which then actually, yeah, this is why I have the second bookmark here. So apparently, the family had decided to not bring up that she's here because her life's in danger. But Jobel couldn't help herself. And Padme's father is like, dear, I know, but I had to say it. Now it's done. Because, I mean, she is stressed about this, about her daughter's life being in danger. And it's like, I have to say it. Sola cleared her throat. Well, this is exciting, she said. And everyone looked at her. And, hey, I'm just... Okay, yeah. Do you know, Anakin, you're the first boyfriend my sister ever brought home. Sola, Padme exclaimed as she rolled her eyes. He isn't my boyfriend. He's a Jedi assigned by the Senate to protect me. I am liking... And there was more here, and I was trying to remember, because he does give an answer. And yes, that is actually a little bit on this second page, so it's after this, not before it. Him answering the question about how in danger she is. But I do like this here because this to me is very typical, what you'd expect, banter between siblings especially, but within a family. So it is a good family dynamic here. I do like this here. And it is, I mean, yeah, Sola absolutely provoked Padme by saying that. Doesn't even matter if Sola doesn't believe that Anakin is a boyfriend. It still is I'm needling you on this. Yeah, I do like that. Actually, a lot of this, legitimately, so much of this, because later on, Sola is pointing out the whole, there's no prohibition on you, Padme, to have a relationship. You can be a senator and have a boyfriend. There's nothing wrong with that. And you're afraid of it. He, on the other hand, does have a prohibition because he's a Jedi. And he's not acting like that. It's very obvious he has feelings for you. And it's just... There's a part of me that, from seeing this, almost feels like... I don't know. I would really like it. I would be so happy if before the end of this, there is a legitimate discussion, a sincere discussion from Anakin of leaving the Jedi Order. And being like, I want to live here. Not even necessarily we get married, I'm your husband, and living there, but just I want out of the Jedi Order. This is what I want. If the Jedi Order says I can't have this, I'm out. It's like, I can't, I need, this is what he needs in life. Because this is a very healthy family dynamic here. And even if it was he and Padme were not to get together, even if that were the case, it still is this kind of relationship there, loving relationship there, with some teasing there, and also some serious stuff. Like, the way, if Anakin could have Padme's father as a father-in-law, and like openly, I could see him turning out better than Vader. So I do hope that there is something like that there. And point has been made about Dooku left the Order. Why? And that was 20. Dooku made 20. Why couldn't Anakin be 21? Why not? And just, I mean, it's not unreasonable, but remember, the war then starts. So it would make sense you could have him considering that, wanting that. And in the chapters before, it's nope, war's starting. And then it's like, I can't. Because I do need to be here as a warrior. But then you could still have the marriage being, she does want it. And even though the time is bad, basically they need each other. They need that relationship. They need that commitment with each other so that the bad times of the war, they know they have that they can fall back to. And then when the war is ended, they know they have this that they can escape to. So it's... I would be so happy with that. I have no idea if it'll happen, but I would be very happy if it happens. Okay. Okay. So yeah, a bodyguard. Oh, Padme, they didn't tell us it was that serious. Padme's sigh was intermixed with a groan. It's not, Mom. I promise. Anyway, Anakin's a friend. I've known him for years. Remember that little boy who was with the Jedi during the blockade crisis? A couple of ahs of recognition came back in response, along with a nodding head. So it's like, okay, she has deflated the situation. Not quite. But she has addressed the situation by being like, no, he's just a bodyguard. And you know him already. I've told you about him. He's Anakin from this. How they wouldn't just know his name is Anakin to begin with, I'm not sure. Because he did save them. I mean, it's like legitimately his destroying of the Trade Federation battleship saved Naboo. You would really think that it wouldn't be oh, your name is, hey, are you that kid? You'd really think it would have been that, not oh, okay. Oh, it's him? Oh, yes, it's so interesting. He's literally a war hero for Naboo. And it's like, oh, yes. Anyhow. Then Padme smiled at Anakin and said, with just enough weight to make him recognize that her previous claims about his place here weren't entirely true, he's grown up. So basically the whole, I'm dismissing you because I don't want to deal with them, but you're good. I mean, it's like that's good. Because they could have even written something in there that, like, along with the couple of ahs of recognition, him being deflated, like, man, come on. You know how I feel. Could have done something there, but didn't need to, just wrote it that way, and that's fine. Anakin glanced at Sola and saw that she was staring at him, scrutinizing him. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, and she continues that stare for quite a while, until finally Padme, like, is glaring back at her, and Sola's like, what? And then they have it out. And then Jobel has the whole, honey, when are you going to settle down? Haven't had enough of that life? And Mom, I'm not in danger. And then you get the father asking, is she? And Anakin's like, I can't lie to this man. Because, I mean, it's just, there's such sincerity there of concern and love, and it's like, how can I possibly lie to him? It is his... There's also that level of the masculine role in such a situation, in such a family, that Anakin is a protector of Padme as well. Her father is also a protector. These protectors, they can't lie to each other, because it goes against their role and need to protect. So yes, he does... When asked, yes, I'm afraid she is. And was it already mentioned? Hang on, where was it mentioned? And Padme, okay. Mom, I'm not in any danger. Padme insisted, taking Anakin's hand in her own, and then the father asks, is she? I find this curious, this taking of his hand, because is that, like, under the table? Is it on top of the table? If it's under the table, that makes more sense. If it's on top of the table, then it's you just said he's only a bodyguard. But now you're holding his hand. It's like, why'd you just lie to us, Padme? But if it's under the table, it makes a bit more sense that it's like, no, really, you're fine. You're good. But it is, again, the whole her being familiar with him in a way that, yeah, I mean, there is potential here, especially because she's not being told she can't. She's not in a mode of thought where she can't be. Yeah, because he says this, and even as the words left his mouth, Anakin felt Padme's grip tighten, but not much. She added quickly, and she turned to Anakin, smiling, but in a "you'll pay for that later" kind of way. Yeah, Anakin, she said quietly, her teeth gritted, locked into that threatening smile. It's like, yeah, this is realistic. This is believable. But as I said, she'd have to be holding his hand under the table, I think. It isn't mentioned, but she'd have to, otherwise it doesn't make sense. But he actually, how he responds here, and again later when talking with her father alone, this is a much healthier mindset Anakin than we've seen in previous chapters. The Senate thought it prudent to give her some time away and under the protection of the Jedi. He said his tone casual, showing no reflections of the pain he was feeling as Padme's fingernails dug into his hand. My master Obi-Wan is even now seeing to the matter. All should be well soon enough. And then Padme finally loosened her grip. Yeah, so there's that, and where is it? Is it later than this? It might be a little bit later than this. I do want to come back to this. Now tell me, son, how serious is this thing? How much danger is my daughter really in? There have been 2 attempts on her life. Chances are there'll be more, but I wasn't lying to you and wasn't trying to minimize anything. My master is tracking down the assassins. I'm sure he'll find out who they are and take care of them. This situation won't last long. In previous chapters, he has been, like, in something like this, he would potentially be talking down Obi-Wan. That in basically, the whole, it was my idea, we should have been doing this from the start. It's just, he has been like that before, but not here. And I think if I am allowed to interpret that as him being impacted by his surroundings here, by this setting here, by these people here, it is that it's like he's in a healthier relationship, overall healthier mindset. So he's like, yeah, Obi-Wan is doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's doing a good job there. Doesn't matter whose idea was. You don't have to worry. He's great. He's great. Whereas before, it's like, he was like, he wanted to brag that it was my idea. We should have been doing this from the beginning, but not here. He's not trying to show off, even though this is like, in his mind, he might be thinking, like, this is going to be my father-in-law at some point. He's not trying to impress. He's just being honest here. And it's also, he feels bad about Obi-Wan as well. So it is, I really, really like this. How this is written, how this is handled here. And it really does make me think that if he could just leave the Jedi Order and stay in this kind of environment, or not with Shmi having been taken, but at the Lars homestead, that if he were in that environment, he'd be fine. He'd be fine. But that's not what he gets, and Obi-Wan is really not equipped for it. And it is also a curious thing, just going back to the whole Obi-Wan situation. You shouldn't have them doing only one-on-one training until somebody becomes a knight. Because Obi-Wan, I'll be honest, I don't think he's that competent of a teacher here. I really don't. He's not been shown that. Anakin is special because he had already grown some, so he hasn't had the discipline imprinted on him from a young age. But it still is, Obi-Wan just is very rigid and very, very, very into the tradition of the Jedi Order. Why is it this way? Because that's the tradition. That's it. So I think that does, it makes sense he shouldn't have Padawans. Qui-Gon was much better with dealing with people, not necessarily imparting the discipline. Obi-Wan already had that, so it worked out fine there. But it does make me think that the structure should be, the good Jedi Knights, the good masters for this kind of stuff. They're the ones that should actually be teaching people. And it might be Obi-Wan is the primary person that Anakin would go to, but that he also gets time with Yoda. He gets time with Mace Windu, Ki-Adi-Mundi, all these others that potentially have far better experience and far better skill and talent at teaching Padawans. That, no, he learns from them, but basically whenever he has a question, or if he's like, off on his own, I think it's Obi-Wan that he goes to. He's the point of contact. He doesn't ask questions of Yoda except when they are training right there, and is a question appropriate and relevant to Yoda's training. That would make so much more sense, but anyway. Just my point coming back to Obi-Wan is not good for this. Anyway, yeah. So this is them, Anakin and Padme's father talking. We are a very fortunate people, and we note that good fortune should not be taken for granted, and so we try to share and try to help. It is our way of saying that we welcome the friendship of those less fortunate, that we do not think ourselves entitled to that which we have, but rather that we feel blessed beyond what we deserve. And so we share, and so we work, and in doing so we become something larger than ourselves, and more fulfilled than one can become from idly enjoying good fortune. Anakin considered his words for a few moments. It is the same with the Jedi, I suppose. We have been given great gifts, and we train hard to make the most of those, and then we use our given powers to try to help the galaxy, to try to make everything a little bit better. That right there is such a better statement and conclusion for Anakin than I think anything we've seen that he's gotten from Obi-Wan. I was like, this is if this sticks with Anakin, I am actually starting to understand this. And it would, that's a thought that does, lost the correct word, but in any case, it does give him maturity. That is a very mature thought, seeing it that way. That it is not about just having this ability and doing whatever with it. It's using it for this purpose, being responsible with it, which is something that Anakin has been lacking. Putting it another way, Padme's father is being a very good father figure here, very good role model here, with that description. Okay, not really more of that there, but it is still like this is very, very positive, and it's like, would Obi-Wan disagree with this? I doubt it. But would Obi-Wan ever say something like that? I don't think he would. I genuinely do not think he would. That's not how his character is. That he, sort of the whole, as I kind of said before, he doesn't necessarily explain traditions, just tradition is this. He wouldn't disagree with it, but he wouldn't be able to say that it's because we have this, and we so value these gifts, that we must use it to help those without. That we must go out and try to make things better for people because we can. That I don't think Obi-Wan would necessarily say, but more of that is the role of a Jedi. Why are we Jedi? I mean, it's like, that's all just inductive logic, but it's like, okay, but what's the original purpose? Like, you're getting me from n to n+1, but what was 0 to 1? What was that? The father here is giving that 0 to 1. And we'll also grant, though, that some of this is absurd. The idea that Naboo's just so bountiful that, and everyone just has this opinion, has this thought. It's like, really? And it's, it also just reminds me of the whole, I think I shared it in the last one, why doesn't Padme just offer to buy Shmi's freedom? I was like, oh yeah, we're great, we have all this stuff. Hey, could you help me over here? Tatooine, shut up! We're not doing that. It's like, it doesn't. There's also the element of he was a builder, and then he is now a professor. Where is the, like? To me, this thought, this thinking that he is demonstrating, and is basically claiming that the Naboo have, makes sense for somebody who has had their hands in the ground, has had their hands in the earth, and understands how to bring these things up. And so it's like, we have the good soil. So yes, we should be able to, we should try to give this food then that, is more than we need to those who don't have the good soil. that makes sense. But it's not really shown here that he has had his hands in the ground, as I said, which I mean metaphorically, but still is, as an entire culture, you would have to have that. And how is it that this has existed without some sort of interference? Also seems odd, aside from the Trade Federation taking. So it sounds like a very idyllic world, but how's it being How's that being protected from invading influences such as the Trade Federation or internal corruption? That we have all this. Why should we give it all away? Why can't we keep some of it, some more of it to ourselves? It's like, yeah, it's that whole kind of monobiome issue with Star Wars, where it's like, how do you have a culture that is homogenous in this way? It doesn't make sense. There should be problems there. That you would still have people like this, and that sentiment, but you'd also have opposing forces, and it's just, where is that? Like even if it were mentioned that, because he was involved in the refugee relief movement, as was Padme, as mentioned previously. That so there's refugee cities on Naboo? No, I mean, it's like, why don't we have these answers and things like that? There should also be that there, but we only have it shown the how it's idyllic. And it kind of reminds me of when I read Utopia. Maybe I should do that again. Utopia is a terrible place. If you actually, like, reading through the description of Utopia in the book Utopia, I would hate to live there. It is tyrannical. Well, not tyrannical, but it is despotic, and that it's like you have no freedom. I was like, there is one clothing design if you are a unmarried man, one design if you are a married man. Same thing for women. One design for women that are unmarried, one design for women who are. They also don't engage in war. What do? They manipulate nearby countries to go to war for them. So it's like, oh yes, if country A, if you go to war with country B, we'll be your friends. Because it's like country B is a threat to Utopia. So it's like, well, here, why don't you do that? It's like, that's evil. Because like, they never allow any of their citizens to be in harm's way, but they're just manipulating other people to go to war. And whoever wins, it's like, well, we're so economically powerful. Even if country B wins, we have such a powerful economy, we'll make you our friends. Because we'll basically just be able to buy you, or A, what's left of A, and do. I mean, it is dystopic. It's a horrible place, and they are evil in Utopia. And it's like, you're kind of giving me some aspects of that here. And it's like, I don't believe it. I do not believe it. All right. Okay, I'm basically covered with the notes here. I do just kind of want to mention a little bit more. Yeah, I had mentioned this earlier because it's right here. It's funny, Padme, because you act as if you're prohibited and you're not, while Anakin acts as if he's under no such prohibitions, and he is. You're way ahead of everything here. Anakin and I have only been together a few days. Before that, I hadn't seen him in a decade. Yeah, it really is. The back and forth here, it does. I like it. It does seem to be Padme. In some ways, she's not matured. Doesn't understand. And like the where is it? The whole you can be a senator and have a boyfriend thing. It's like Sola gets this, she understands this, and Padme doesn't, because it's like, no, I have to focus on single things. I can't juggle anything. I can't balance anything. I can't decide that's a priority, that isn't, or that's a higher priority than this. And to me, that is a sign of maturity, being able to understand and recognize all that. And Solo's basically trying to point out, look, you really should try to have that. Some of it is teasing, some of it is just honest, sincere. She loves her sister. And Padme is starting to, I think, get some of this. But, yeah. Okay, and then we get a little bit about how, yes, they are leaving. This is not where they're staying. They're going to the lake country. And then we get something else here that I do find interesting, because on the one hand, I like it, but on the other hand, how has it actually impacted Padme? So he is in her room because she's packing to leave. And it's funny because he even kind of remarks, holy crap, how many closets do you have? And they're all full. maybe you could give some to your sister. And Padme just looks at him and is like, yeah. um, Hang on, I just want to see if I can spot that. It is legitimately kind of funny. Um, oh, come on. Whatever. Um, so there's two basic pictures of her that she keeps in her room. One when she was before she was part of the apprentice, before she was an apprentice legislator, and one after, during. The one before, she was active with the refugee relief movement, which basically just means her dad brought her to work. I mean, that's not to say she didn't care about it, but it's like that's the connection. Um, this is when I went with a relief group to Shada B. Buren. The sun was imploding and the planet was dying. First off, if a sun is imploding, the planet dies very quickly. I mean, no, we're talking about a supernova. There's no time to evacuate. They did. And also that if it was imploding, then that would mean you likely already had a red giant, so you'd have to have a planet out there that is surviving that, and then it's... but I don't know if we believe many planets would be habitable around a red giant, because by the time the red giant would form... When the sun turns into a red giant, it's actually going to expand beyond the beyond our Earth's orbit. I don't remember if it would hit to Mars, but it's like there's kind of no terrestrial planets left. And I'm not sure if we're aware of any terrestrial planets being far enough out that they could survive and then also survive heating up a lot. Because a red giant is a lot hotter than a main sequence star like the sun is. So despite it being red, because it is a giant at that point, it will cook a lot of things. So yeah, the science is not quite right. Let's just leave it at that. I was helping to relocate the children. Hang on. He asked, pointing to the young girls, 7 or 8 at the most, in the hollow, the picture, surrounded by dozens of little green smiling creatures, and holding one in her arms. See that little one I'm holding? His name was Naki Tula, which means sweetheart. He was so full of life. All those kids were. They were never able to adapt. They were never able to live off their native planet. Okay. That's kind of heavy. And I like this because that is something that would impact anyone. Then in the next picture, noticing that Padme's expression seemed much more severe here. My first day as apprentice legislature, Padme explained. Then, as if reading his mind, she added, see the difference? And it's like, I get the whole, okay, now she's more stern. But it's also like, just understanding some things can't be saved. That you can try, but it won't work. And yeah, but then there's also, because it reminds me of how, like, Future Farmers of America, 4-H, things like that, I've never been part of, but I do understand some of this, where it's like, yeah, you, in some cases, actually in plenty of cases, they raise an animal up from infant, essentially, to be sold. And it's sold to be butchered. And that can hurt, it can be painful, because you basically had a pet that now you have to sell, you have to give up, and it's going to be killed. It can be painful, it can be hard there, but it still is but you did that so people can eat. You know, you're feeding people that way. That animal has a purpose there. Here, it's still kind of they couldn't adapt. It's like having that kind of understanding of life that not everything ends up surviving. And sometimes, in the case of an animal grown for food, it's fulfilling its purpose with its death. So it does. It's just one of those things where it's like I like that moment there, but at the same time, how's Padme ever demonstrated that lesson? She seems, especially in Attack of the Clones, which is more so where we have to pay attention. She seems very, very single-minded on we have to defeat the Military Creation Act. And there's nothing like, you know what, this might not work. What do we do then? I mean, there seems no consideration on her part of loss there of failure, except for, oh, then there'll be war. So, I mean, it's like how I said a while ago. The idea that it's the existence of the military that's going to provoke a war is asinine. So she shouldn't be fighting that. She should be fighting, okay, what are the rules by which they will operate under? What is their purpose? Who do they answer to? She could be focusing on that. In some ways, that is the more mature thought that she should be having from that experience of, we tried, but they couldn't survive. The only place they could survive would have killed them. And just that kind of recognition, yeah, I don't. It's kind of the whole Kirk doesn't believe in the no-win scenario. Real Kirk, Shatner Kirk, not 2009 and so on Kirk. That's not Star Trek. But classic Kirk, he rejects the no-win scenario, which in some cases just means he changes what victory is. In some ways, that is it. Because, I mean, it's like, he won against Khan, but it cost him Spock. Now, true, that wasn't his decision, but it still was. He got the win at a high cost, but he still did get it. It sucks. But it is that whole... She should be more like that, I feel, as far as the whole calculating it out and realizing that this might not work. Okay, plan A doesn't work. B, C, D, having all that, and it should be something I would think would come from that. That you could trace it back to that, but nope. And it's not even like she's mentioning that we fought to try to recreate what they needed. No, it's just they couldn't adapt. So, because in theory, the whole that if they fought to make it so they didn't need to adapt. Oh wow, I'm really going long. That could have spoken to how in The Phantom Menace, her single-mindedness in protecting Naboo. That no, we have to do something. We have to make changes to prevent the Trade Federation from staying here and potentially changes so they can't do so again. But that's never even touched on. Which, to be fair, that's between books. Okay. Although you could have some mention here that maybe that Naboo did become more militarized. That they did integrate the Gungans more so into society as their formal military, but the Naboo, the humans, also started taking on roles there beyond just their own security force, so they could never have a blockade situation like that again, and potentially even be like, we're going to have a military, so if the Trade Federation tries this anywhere else, we can go and help them. That's not unreasonable. And somebody who had that whole, they couldn't adapt. Well, there could be places that couldn't adapt under Trade Federation rule. We have to be able to help them. But, yeah. I like that moment. I do. I like the story there. I do. But it just doesn't feel like it shaped her character as much as I think it should have. So, yeah. I guess really at this point, letting it go just a little bit longer. Just repeating what I said before, I really hope we do see Anakin basically deciding he wants out of the Jedi. That he's going to leave. He can't. It's not good for him. He wants that home kind of life on Naboo. And it can even be him saying like maybe she said something or something happened, so he doesn't feel worthy of her. He doesn't feel that'll happen. That's fine. So that he could have a line like, I don't mean I'm gonna follow you, but just I that is what I need. I don't need the Jedi. I need that. It would make me feel so much better about the character and so much better about the story. And you could still have, because war starts, he has to be a warrior, and it still drags him down to being Vader. You can still do that. It doesn't compromise the story at all. It just improves his character. So I really, really hope we see that. But we might not. But we will be finding out as we continue. See you next time.